Set in 1431 AD, the movie begins with a voiceover revealing that in the reign of King Boromaracha Tirat II, the kingdom of Ayutthaya has seized the area of Sukhothai and has expanded its power across the highland to the east. After a 7-month siege, Ayutthaya successfully managed to capture the divine city. Around a year later, Lord Rajasena, a treacherous warlord, sends an army of men along with a masked assassin to kill Sadahecho's family. In a fierce horseback chase with arrows flying around, Tian, the young heir to Lord Sadahecho, narrowly escapes the massacre with a loyalist's help. He manages to flee from the village, witnessing the destruction and loss that occurs only to get captured by the slave traders. Tian, along with other captives, is brought to an arena-like setting by the slave traders. The traders, motivated by profit and cruelty, use these captives for deadly and sadistic entertainment. Instead of waiting passively to be sold, Tian, the stubborn youngster, tries to fight them off, during which he hits one of the main bad guys in the face with a rock. As a punishment, the captors decide to soak him in blood and throw Tian into a pit filled with a massive and aggressive crocodile. Tian's life is immediately in grave danger, as he finds himself in a life-and-death struggle with the crocodile. The scene becomes an intense battle for survival, as Tian uses his martial arts skills and resourcefulness to fend off the deadly predator. The slave traders and onlookers react with excitement and anticipation as they watch Tian struggle for his life. Tian uses his skills to avoid the crocodile's attacks and finds a way to escape the pit. Just when it looked like Tian may be overpowered by the crocodile, Chernang, king of all the bandits, intervenes, and the bandits, who were standing among the onlookers, attack the slave traders. In the meantime, Chernang throws a knife toward Tian to help him in defeating the crocodile. Using the knife, Tian manages to overcome the crocodile. Intrigued by his physical prowess and sheer willpower, Chernang takes Tian to his village to meet Master Bua. With the flashbacks of the brutal murder of his parents, Tian wakes up and finds an old man sitting next to him. Apparently, Master Bua is a soothsayer who possesses mystical knowledge and insight into the future. The soothsayer reveals that Tian has a powerful destiny. He claims that Tian is destined to become a great warrior to conquer the world, and hints at the challenges and trials that Tian will face on his journey. Later, Chernang introduces himself to Tian as the King of Outlaws at the Garuda Wing Cliff, and reveals how he was impressed with Tian's courageous fight. He then offers to train Tian in the way of weapons and martial arts. Once Tian accepts his offer, Chernang takes him under his wing and becomes Tian's mentor and father figure. Initially, Tian undergoes basic martial arts training that includes fundamental techniques, stances, and forms that form the foundation of his martial arts skills. Tian's training involves rigorous physical conditioning. He undergoes intense workouts to build strength, endurance, and agility. These physical exercises push Tian to his limits, helping him develop the physical prowess required for combat. Tian is also trained in various traditional weapons, such as staffs and swords. Chernang imparts weapon techniques and strategies to enhance Tian's combat versatility. Beyond physical training, Chernang instills discipline, focus, and mental toughness in Tian. He helps Tian overcome fear and self-doubt stemming from his traumatic past. The rigorous training continues for years, showing Tian's dedication and perseverance in his quest for vengeance. In the next scene, Tian, who has been training rigorously under Chernang's guidance, stands in the midst of the jungle. That's when a group of elephants, majestic and gentle creatures, approaches Tian. As the elephants come closer to Tian, they lower their massive heads and trunks to the ground, effectively bowing in a gesture of respect. Tian is initially surprised and moved by the elephants' actions. However, he approaches them calmly and acknowledges the elephant's gesture with a sense of humility and gratitude. Recognizing Tian's growth, Chernang feels the need to test Tian's abilities and decides to put him through a martial arts trial that involves intense hand-to-hand combat, with opponents using traditional Thai weapons, including staffs and swords. After passing the martial arts test, Tian is brought to a secluded and challenging location within the jungle to test the power of his mind. That's when a mysterious woman, referred to as the Jungle Woman, appears out of the dense foliage asking for help. Tien approaches her only to find out that she's a skilled and agile fighter, and her intentions are initially unclear. Without warning, the woman launches a surprise attack on Tien. She engages him in combat, using her martial arts skills and agility to challenge him. Tien and the woman engage in a fierce and acrobatic martial arts duel. As the battle intensifies, it becomes apparent that the woman is not necessarily an enemy, but rather a test or challenge that Tien must overcome. Eventually, Tien manages to subdue the woman and ends the confrontation. Later, a traditional and mystical ceremony takes place in the jungle, attended by the local villagers and members of Tien's community. The ceremony is meant to acknowledge and honor the great black tusk as the king of all elephants, after which Chernang announced that Tien will replace him as the leader. He believes that Tien is now ready to take on a leadership role and continue their mission to seek justice and confront Lord Rajasena. With Tien now leading the group, they continue their mission to seek justice against Lord Rajasena, who was responsible for the murder of Tien's parents. Tien's newfound leadership is focused on avenging his family's death and putting an end to Rajasena's tyranny. Tien, along with his group, works to gather allies and supporters who share their goal of overthrowing Lord Rajasena's oppressive rule. They seek alliances with other communities and individuals who have suffered under Rajasena's regime. Under Tien's leadership, the group intensifies its training and prepares for the ultimate showdown with Lord Rajasena and his forces. This includes refining their combat skills, strategizing, and strengthening their resolve. Amidst all the chaos, a flashback reveals how Tien, like his father, wanted to become a warrior. However, in an attempt to protect Tien, the commander of the Ayutthaya Royal Guard, Lord Rajasena, Lord Siadecho sends him to learn dance in a remote village under Master Bua, instead of making him a warrior. Although the young Tien disdains their peaceful life, he eventually befriended an orphan girl named Pim. Back in the present, the ruthless slave traders are in the process of capturing and mistreating innocent villagers. Tien, fueled by his sense of justice and empathy for the victims, decides to take action. He leads his group in a daring attempt to rescue the enslaved villagers and confront the slave traders. A fierce battle ensues between Tien's group and the slave traders. But soon, Tien and his group succeed in defeating the slave traders, incapacitating them and securing the freedom of the enslaved villagers. He then throws their leader to the crocodiles, as they previously did to him. Another flashback reveals how Tien has gone back home for a little while, but his friend Pim is sad to see him leave. However, on his way back home, Lord Siadecho gets betrayed by one of their own guards, who attempts to kidnap Tien from the village. But the boy somehow manages to escape and arrives home only to witness Siadecho and his household massacred by Lord Rajasena and a mysterious masked assassin. Tien, as a child, is overwhelmed by the violence and the traumatic sight of his parents being brutally murdered before his eyes. He is left feeling helpless and traumatized by the experience. Tien manages to escape the massacre and flees into the jungle as shown in the beginning of the movie. Later, Tien finally decides to confide in Chernang about his plan for revenge. He explains to Chernang the depths of his pain and anger over the murder of his parents. He shares his burning desire to seek revenge against Lord Rajasena, who has become a symbol of evil and injustice in his life. Chernang, while understanding Tien's grief and anger, is also concerned about the path of revenge. He knows the dangers of such a pursuit and the toll it can take on a person's soul. Chernang is torn between supporting Tien and ensuring his well-being. He warns Tien about the potential consequences of his quest for revenge and encourages him to find a purpose beyond vengeance. But despite Chernang's words of caution, Tien's commitment to seek revenge remains strong. He acknowledges Chernang's guidance, but is determined to confront Lord Rajasena and make him pay for the heinous crime. On the other hand, the holy ritual of paying homage to the divine monument is being held within Lord Rajasena's kingdom. Lord Rajasena, dressed in resplendent royal attire, is seated at the center of the ceremony. He is surrounded by his loyal subjects, courtiers, and dignitaries, who are also dressed in extravagant clothing. Lord Rajasena uses the ceremony as an opportunity to flaunt his authority and dominance over his people. The ceremony includes a ceremonial procession featuring musicians, dancers, and performers. These artists showcase their talents in an effort to entertain and impress Lord Rajasena and his guests. Tien uses his martial arts prowess to blend in with the performers and participants, remaining unnoticed. At a strategically chosen moment during the ceremony, Tien suddenly reveals his true identity and attacks Lord Rajasena. The sudden attack throws the ceremony into chaos as participants flee in fear or become embroiled in the battle. Tien engages in a fierce battle with Lord Rajasena's guards, showing his exceptional combat skills and agility as he takes on multiple opponents. However, a man at the ceremony seems to have recognized Tien. After he had apparently killed Rajasena, Tien arrives at the village and is met with an unsettling sight. The village, once bustling with life, is now completely empty and abandoned. There are no villagers, no signs of activity, and no sense of the community that once thrived there. Moments later, Tien is confronted by the masked assassin who, as Tien remembers, was also involved in the massacre of his parents. Soon, more masked attackers emerge, but Tien successfully manages to fight them all off with the help of an elephant and a variety of martial arts techniques. Soon, Tien meets his match at the hands of a final opponent named Buti Sangka, a sinister yet formidable martial artist. After a fierce martial arts duel, Buti defeats Tien and takes the elephant away, leaving him to be submitted by Lord Rajasena and his army. Turns out, the Lord turns out to have survived the assassin thanks to hidden armor. In the final showdown, it is revealed that the masked assassin in fact is none other than Chernang, who must now finish his job from years ago in exchange for Rajasena pardoning his bandits. Tien reluctantly fights Chernang, who pins Tien down and acknowledges him as his son and asks him to accept his own life to avenge his father. Chernang then causes the blade of Tien's sword to snap and slash across his throat, killing himself. Exhausted and devastated, Tien collapses on the ground surrounded by the soldiers, where Rajasena orders Tien to be slowly tortured to death. In a voiceover, Tien suffers this fate due to his bad karma, but adds that he will find a way to cheat death. The movie ends with an ambiguous scene showing Tien with a fully grown beard standing in front of a scarred golden Ong Bak Buddha statue. With that being said, this is it for today's video. Let us know what you thought about the movie in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.